Okay, welcome back to modeling this knife. We finished modeling the handle in some pretty good detail in the previous video. In this one, we're going to focus completely on finishing off the knife by creating this blade piece, as well as this sort of a handguard piece that goes right here that meets the blade with the handle. So, let's get started. We're going to go ahead and start doing this with a primitive cube. Yes, that's right, a cube is what we're going to create this with. So let's close that PPG. Now obviously the cube by default is way too big. So let's just scale it down. Scale it down. Let's move it down about right here. So the middle is where this handguard piece is. And then we're going to scale it down in the y-axis to make it nice and thin. And then we're going to scale it out and make it wider, like this. But maybe make it a little bit fatter, so let's widen it up a little bit. Now let's look at this thing in our camera viewport to see how it's actually coming out. We can see it's not wide enough. It needs to be wider. So let's go ahead and scale it out so it's wider, like that. And now another important thing is that we have to go ahead and subdivide this. So hit the plus key on the number pad of your keyboard to turn this into a sub D. Hold down Control and hit the plus key again to activate the wireframe cage. Okay, so we got some work to do here. Let's go back into the side view. Let's go to edge mode and just nice and easy select all the edges in the middle here, using E on the keyboard to do that, of course. Then we're going to right click on the object, go to split edges with split control, and that is actually pretty good right there. All I'm going to do is with I on the keyboard, I'm going to select one edge. We're going to have to do this here in the camera viewport. All at the middle mouse button, click another edge right there to select the entire loop all the way around. Then we're simply going to right click, bevel that, increase the distance to the point where those edges go almost to the top and bottom. That doesn't look too bad right there. I want them to get farther apart. Let me close that. Let me use this scale tool here with global and COG turned on to scale this up and up and up until they get very close to each other and make that nice and sharp, because in real life that piece is a pretty sharp piece of metal, as you can see. And as you can also see, we need to switch to object mode, so hit spacebar on the keyboard, activate the scale tool, make sure you have COG turned on, and let's scale this out and make it a little bit wider this way, right there. Again, it doesn't have to be exact like in the reference image, but you definitely want to keep it to be pretty close. Okay, now it's a little bit too roundish right here. I don't want it to be a square either, but this is just way too round. So let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to select these edges here, and then holding on shift I'm going to select the edges in the back over there. I'm going to right click and I'm going to split edges with split control. Close the PPG. I'm going to go to ray casting edge mode using I on the keyboard. Select this edge, Alt and middle mouse button, click this edge down here, and I should have the whole loop selected, which I do. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on Bevel Components. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this width here. Let's increase it to something higher like 3, or maybe something like 4. Let's try 4. Getting closer, getting closer. Let's try something like 6. That's not too bad. I kind of like that. It's a little bit too squarish for my taste though, so I'm going to fix that. This is how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to go to point mode, select these points, hold on shift, select those points, hold on shift, select these points, and holding on shift select those points over there. I'm going to activate the scale tool, make sure that global mode and COG are turned on, and I'm going to scale this with the blue manipulator until this gets as round as I want it to be. So something like this looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that right there. That looks pretty good in my opinion. I'm going to keep my knife like this. Of course, you're free to do your knife however you want, but my knife is going to look like this. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the side view here, and we're going to start to actually model out the blade itself which is going to be a pretty good challenge, but it's going to be a lot of fun to do. Okay, I'm going to create this using a new polygon mesh cube. And again, the cube is too big, so we're just going to scale it down. Scale this guy down to about right here is pretty good. I want the top to be aligned with this line in the knife edge right there. So I'm going to move that to about there. Then I'm going to scale it out to about there. And I can see that I have to go to point mode, select these points on the end, and move them to about right there. And maybe I'll take these over here and move them out a little bit like that. Okay, pretty good. Then I'm going to select these edges down the middle here. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to split edges with split control. I'm going to move that split to about right here. I want it to be aligned with this line in the image right there, and you'll see why in a moment. Let's go back to the camera viewport. We can see that we need to scale this guy down in object mode, so hit spacebar on the keyboard to go to object mode and scale this thing down to be thinner, kind of like the blade should be. So something like this. We're not going to worry too much about the thickness of this right now. We're just trying to get an overall thickness. Again, the image doesn't show us, but it doesn't really matter. This thickness right here is pretty good. Again, I happen to be able to use one of these in real life for reference. Don't ask me why I have one. I just do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this polygon right there. Perfect. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude, and I'm going to pull that out to about here. It's pretty good. Then I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again. I'm going to pull out the extrusion to about up here. Now, we can see that we need to start following the shape of our knife a little bit better. So, that's what we're going to do. Go to point mode, select the points on the top, and move them over a little bit to match with the knife better. It doesn't have to be totally exact, but I can get so picky and so perfectionist at times. Okay, time to turn this into a sub D. Let's hit the plus key on the keyboard several times to smooth it out. Hold down Control. Actually, we don't have to hold down Control and hit the plus key. The wireframe's already visible. Duh. Okay, here we go. What I'm going to do now is select this edge here, and right now this handle part down here is getting in my way, which can be pretty annoying. So here's what we're going to do. Select both of the handle pieces down here. Just select both the handle pieces and the handguard, so it's 2 pieces in total, and hit H on the keyboard. And by doing that, you temporarily hide the objects. Don't get scared. They're not deleted, they're not gone, they're just hidden. We're going to go back later and unhide them when we're finished modeling the blade. It's just that we need to get them out of the way for the moment because they're really getting in the way of our progress here. So, what I'm going to do to flatten out the bottom part here, which I want to be flattened out, I'm going to select the bottom polygons and I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of them, and that's going to flatten out the bottom. As you can see, it flattened it out perfectly. I'm going to go to point mode and select all those points and move them up to about right here, about the middle of where that handguard piece is. Okay, pretty good. Now let me select all these points here on the side, and I can see that I have to move this out this way a little bit. Not too much because we have to straighten that out later anyway, so there's no point in editing it right now too much. Okay. Switch to wireframe mode and we can see where we are. Let's go up here to the top. We need to select this top polygon so we can continue extruding it upwards and get toward the end of the knife. So I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to extrude again this way to about right here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again. And I'm going to pull this out to about right here. So why right there? That's because if you look, you can see this edge that comes right here and this edge that comes right here, and they meet up at about this point over here. That's why I'm moving that there. And you're probably still wondering, okay, you moved it there because of that, but why? Well, There's really no point in explaining it right now. It's not going to make any sense, but you'll get to see in a moment. So I'm going to move this point right there. I'm going to take this point and move it about right there. We need more detail here, more geometry. So let's select these edges. Switch back to shaded view so you can see what's going on here. And actually, now that I'm in shaded view, I just realized I got to move this in right here. Okay, about right there is pretty good. I'm going to select these edges. I'm going to right click on the object, split with split control. Okay. And actually, let me undo that. I have a better idea. Let's use a different tool. Let's use Subdivide Edges evenly. This one lets us determine how many subdivisions we want. Let's go with 2. 2 is going to allow us to control the shape pretty good. If we need more, we'll add more. Let's go to point mode. I'm going to select this point right here and move it to about right there. Select this point, move it to about right here. Select this point. I'm going to move this one in to about right there. Select this one. This one's got to be about right there. I'm trying to follow the groove right there, the actual cut of the knife. Right here, we need to sharpen this up. If we go to Wireframe, we see that there's a pretty sharp, if I move this out of the way real quick, there's a sharp, sudden dip right there in that piece. So I want to imitate that. To imitate that, I'll go to Edge Mode, select these edges, right click, and this time I'm going to use Split Edges with Split Control. Move the ratio all the way back to right here. This has got to be really sharp right here, so make sure you put these real close to each other. Select these edges right here, right click, go to Split Edges with Split Control. Again, this has to be really sharp, so get these edges real close. Okay, that's not too bad. That's a pretty sharp edge right there. Not bad at all. Okay, so now with that done, I'm going to select the top polygon that's up there and continue to extrude that. I'm going to extrude it all the way to the tip of the knife right there. You can see Sub-Ds allows us to bend this shape in this very nice, smooth, round shape that the real knife has. Let me select these edges here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Subdivide Edges just one time. I really only have to do it one time. I don't have to do it too many times. So I'm going to move that to about right there. That's pretty good. So I'm following the contours of the knife pretty closely.